Hello and a very warm welcome to this Independence Day special on Times Now. I'm Pratibha. Today we have a very special guest with us in our studios as we celebrate Independence Day. It's one of the people that the country is extremely proud of, India's pride, three-time Grammy Award winner, Rickey Kej. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be with you.
All right, and you know, he has a very special gift for the entire country, and that's what we're going to start off with today for Independence Day. Tell us a lot about it as we are celebrating, and there are so many reasons to celebrate this Independence Day in particular. And one of the big reasons is also going to be this orchestra that you've conducted, especially because it's the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra that you've conducted. Tell us a little about it, because this is huge for India.
It's amazing. It's huge for me, at least. So the national anthem is a very important piece of music for me, like it is for 1.4 billion Indians. It's the first piece of music that I ever learnt as a child, and it's the first ever piece of music that I ever even listened to, even before I listened to any nursery rhymes or lullabies and things like that. So I wanted to create this really epic version of the national anthem, and I've collaborated with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra multiple times in the past, in fact on my Grammy-winning album too. And this time I thought, why not go for a 100-piece orchestra, get them to perform the Indian National Anthem, give it that epic grandeur. And of course, an added bonus was that the British have ruled us for over 200 years, so it feels good that an Indian composer is actually, conducting the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, performing the Indian National Anthem. So overall, it was a fantastic experience.
Every Indian feels it when you're listening to the national anthem. It gives you goosebumps, and it happens every single time. So how was that feeling, knowing that, you are perhaps creating history, a moment like this, which means so much to you? Was this something that you had thought of from a long time dream come true?
I've made multiple versions of the national anthem in the past, during my professional career of about 23-24 years. One national anthem that I created, one version of the national anthem I created was dedicated to the forests and wildlife of India, just to showcase that India is much more than just human beings. So I released that in 2015 for the Paris Climate Change Conference, which happened at that time. And then last year I did another version of the national anthem, which was sung by refugees from different countries who have found a home in India and who the Indian government has welcomed and pretty much made them a part of India now. So that was another version that I released last year, and this year is a new version. Of course, I'm extremely respectful to the national anthem because I feel that it's sacrosanct, and it's that one song that brings the entire nation together. Every country's got a national anthem. Every country's got a popular song, which is the national anthem. But the thing is that there's always a little bit of controversy associated with the national anthem in other countries.
Yes.
In India, the national anthem is loved beyond political divides, philosophical borders and geographic locations. So it's just a beautiful piece of music.
Okay. And, as we're celebrating Independence Day, I also want to ask you about what you think of India's journey thus far, not just for music, but overall per se for the country, as in for music as well. And you played your very important part in ensuring that India has reached a global stage like no other year. So this year, truly for musicians as well, it's a great year to be celebrating.
I think the government today recognizes the importance of soft power, the importance of arts as a very good way to bridge, barriers between us and other countries. Also, yoga has been used as a very strong method of soft power. And it is a new India at the end of the day. Previously, many years ago, India was always sitting on the sidelines when it came to intergovernmental decisions, when it came to big, countries making decisions. India was always sitting on the sidelines and they were just watching and they were just listening to whatever they were told to do. But now India has completely changed. India is not only participating in these intergovernmental decisions and these big decisions which affect the whole world globally, but India is also taking leadership.
Yes.
And even with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, even with this particular version of the National Anthem, the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, this mighty British orchestra, the most in-demand orchestra, in the UK, they were so thrilled to do something for India and to give this as a gift for India, which shows that, India is really coming of age. And India is moving in absolutely the right direction.
Absolutely. And they've been associated with some of the biggest music legends.
Correct.
So it is, I'm sure, a very great honor. But, you've been very vocal about speaking about the change that India has seen under this current leadership as well. You have a very special equation with Prime Minister Modi as well. So tell us a little bit about that.
During the first time when I won the Grammy Award in 2015, I was invited to meet Prime Minister Modi. And I was told that it's going to be a 5-minute meeting, for which I was extremely grateful. I went and met Prime Minister Modi, and it ended up being an hour-long discussion because he was going to be visiting the Paris Climate Change Conference a little later that year. We discussed about the environment, we discussed about climate change, about climate action, about our various philosophies of, of coexistence. And that is when, we had decided to make an album, which he was going to launch at the Climate Change Conference, which he ended up doing.
Yes.
And after that, I've met him multiple times, during concerts of mine, during conferences. The last time I met him was in Paris, for the state dinner, which President Macron had organized. It was such an inspiring dinner because I was seated right next to President Macron,
and we saw so many interactions between you and him.
It was amazing, actually, and and during that entire interaction, or 2-hour interaction, President Macron kept holding my hand and telling me that this dinner is happening at the Louvre, which is the most famous museum in the world, and he was saying that the last time a dinner like this happened was in 1957 with Queen Elizabeth. So he himself was thrilled to have that dinner over there because Prime Minister Modi was visiting. So it's amazing the amount of respect that that Prime Minister Modi is getting at all of these places, and the red carpet is being rolled out for him, and it shows that India has become a power to reckon with.
Absolutely. And you have a personal equation with him as well, I'm sure, because he's also very involved, and you've spoken about how he's been a big inspiration for your entire music career. I mean, after the Grammy, after every association that you've had, and he's not somebody who's, you've spoken about how he's not just speaking about it, he's genuinely involved in it completely.
Correct. No, I'm very, very glad that, Prime Minister Modi has been very encouraging of my career. Each time I won a Grammy Award, I've gotten to meet him. He's congratulated me. He's been genuinely very happy with the successes that I've been getting. In fact, I can tell you this one story that a few months ago at the Brahma Kumari's ashram, which is in Mount Abu, they were inaugurating a new multi-speciality hospital. So Prime Minister Modi was called for that as a chief guest, and I was sitting in the front row, but the front row was very far away from the stage, maybe about 40 or 50 feet away. So it is impossible for anybody on stage to even look at the faces of the people in the front row. Prime Minister Modi gave a speech, waved out at the audience, looked in my direction and waved out. I never imagined you could see me. 2 months later, I met him in France, and before I could even tell him anything, he caught my hand and he's like, "I'd seen you in Mount Abu at the Brahma Kumari's event, and I waved at you. Why didn't you wave back?"
Wow.
And I told him that I could not even imagine that you could have seen me, from so far away, and then he started laughing, and then we took a picture together.
Okay, that's great. And the Prime Minister also makes it a point to ensure that the real might of India is shown whenever he's visiting these countries. I'm sure, when he's taking artists like you around with him, it also gives a big message to the around countries as well where he's visiting, to ensure that India is not just about, say, developing country which is doing well in these spheres, but it's also about so much more, our culture, our music, and so much more.
Everything. It's a very holistic view. It's not just about industrialization. It's not just about economics. It's about, as I mentioned, soft power. It's about arts. It's about culture. It's about yoga. It's about showcasing India to the world. Like, for example, I'd gone for the welcoming event when Prime Minister Modi walked into the White House, not for the state dinner, but in the morning when he arrived in Washington, D.C. and there were 7,000 people on the lawns, between at least 6,000 people on the lawns of the White House. And there were people from the State Department, from the US State Department, who I was talking to at that time. And they were telling me that they'd never seen that many people in the White House lawns ever. And people were chanting Modi, Modi, Modi over there. And they were like, the State Department people are like, this is the first time that somebody is chanting some other president or prime minister's name at the White House lawns. And that is how India has become such a beautiful force in this world, and a force for good.
Absolutely. And it's so heartening to see the kind of response that it gets in. Tell us, you know, for the kind of fame that you've seen with the Grammys, a little bit about, you know, how life has changed for you after the first Grammy as well. There was a gap, but there was so much interest in your music. After that, you came up with the second collaboration as well, and you're seeing this success. How has life, you know, the change that you've seen, do you see any change that it's having in the kind of music that you're making? Because you make it a point to create an impact with your music.
No, true. Every piece of music that I make is about either a social cause or an environmental cause. That's the only kind of music that I make, and that's my career. And that's why you won't see me making music, pop music or Bollywood music, because I've decided that this is what my career is going to be about. I feel strongly about certain things, and I'm going to create music on that. Now, when it comes to awards, there are always two ways to look at awards. One is through vanity, that, yeah, I won this award and, you know, I'm great or whatever, which is the wrong way to look at awards. The way that I have always looked at awards is that awards is a platform for more and more people to take you seriously and for your message to spread further and wider through your music. So that's how I look at it. Every time I win an award, the end goal is not to win an award. The end goal is to make and create great music and to hope that people resonate with your message. But when an award happens, I'm extremely grateful for that. And it's very welcome. And that I use that award as a platform for doing bigger and better things and for collaborating with more and more people and to spread a message of awareness, especially when it comes to the environment and social impact with everyone around.
Because you always weave a social message with your music.
Yes.
Is that how you would like to be remembered? Because for a lot of people, it's also about the kind of music you bring in. But what is the kind of legacy you think you want to leave behind?
See, at the end of the day, music has to be entertaining. There's no doubt about it. Because if it's not entertaining, then the message is going to have no value. Because if people are not going to listen to the music, how are they going to get that message? So for me, I absolutely ensure that my music is of a high quality and it is very entertaining. But at the same time, when somebody listens to my music or somebody attends a concert of mine, they have something to think about.
And, you know, talking about your recent experience, I just want to ask you, how did it feel as an Indian to be commanding this British orchestra? And it's not just any, it's, you know, one of the most famous orchestras around the world. So how was that feeling?
It is amazing. I've worked with them a couple of times in the past, but this was extra special because it was the Indian National Anthem. And I even explained to the orchestra that, you know, that you've ruled us for over 200 years, so now this is your best gift that you can give 1.4 billion Indians like me. And they really worked hard on this. They really worked hard on this because, as I mentioned, I've worked with them in the past, but I've never heard such a beautiful performance from them. And they really wanted, from their souls, I felt that they wanted to give a really good performance and make this the definitive version of the national anthem that we will use for posterity. And also this national anthem, I've decided to give it completely free of cost and make it available to every single Indian everywhere in the world for use in any purpose, any way that anybody would want, without any royalties. Not even permission is required. So I just want to give it for free to everybody.
Okay, so that it reaches everyone around the world.
And everybody has got a version of the national anthem that they can use without having to bother about permissions.
Okay. So, you know, for the kind of passion that you have for the music and environment, the two loves of your life, if I can call it that, what do you think of the emerging independent music scene in the country? Do you see that improving? Do you see a lot more interest now, a lot more seriousness into it now?
Yes, there is a lot more seriousness when it comes to independent music, but independent music always comes in waves. It comes in ebbs and flows. Like, for example, in the early 2000s, there was a huge burst of independent music with Magna Sound. We have Anaida, Anamika, Shan, Sagarika, Adnan Sami. Everybody came up during that particular point in time. But then again, the independent scene just died out after that. Now we are seeing a resurgence. But the thing is that when it comes to Bollywood music, I believe Bollywood music makes very high quality music. Their composers and their singers, when they go abroad and they perform, they are able to fill up stadiums. But with a very few exceptions, the only people who show up for these concerts abroad are people from the Indian diaspora. Because Bollywood, again, with very few exceptions, has not actually broken cultural barriers. The people who have actually broken cultural barriers are the classical musicians and the traditional musicians. People like Pandit Ravi Shankar, people like Ustad Zakir Hussain, Ustad Ali Akbar Khan, Pandit Vishwamohan Bhatt. If you go to their concert has got a very mixed bag audience, which is very representative of the demographic of the country that they're going to. So I believe that for independent musicians, it's very important for all of us to dig deep into our roots, figure out what is it that makes us uniquely Indian, and showcase that Indianness and showcase that uniqueness that we have to the rest of the world, and be flag bearers of our culture everywhere in the world. And people will appreciate us for it, and people will reward us for it.
Okay. And, you know, for the kind of global star that you are, I want to ask you, do you see the kind of acceptance that you're seeing globally for your music? Do you wish, or, you know, do you see that happening already, the kind of acceptance or fame that your music should be getting in India? Or is that something that you think is still lacking and there's a lot more that you could wish for?
There is always a mainstream music in any country, and there is a niche music.
That's true.
Like, for example, let's take a country like America. Your mainstream music is, let's say, Taylor Swift. And your niche music is Chick Corea, who's a jazz musician. Of course, now he's no more, but that would be a niche music. In America, nobody would ever question Chick Corea that how come you don't have the, even though you're such a great musician, how come you don't have the same followers that, Beyonce has? Yeah. So that mindset needs to come into India, that you have your mainstream music, which is Bollywood, but not everybody has to have the same kind of fan following as Bollywood, because the difference between mainstream music and niche music is that if you're a mainstream artist, you last for a certain amount of time. You've got a certain shelf life. And then after that, people go to the next, flavor of the year or whatever, or flavor of the month. And so that's why there's no longevity for an artist. An artist has got a particular shelf life. Whereas when it comes to niche genres of music, if you make those few fans that you make, those fans will stick with you for the rest of your life. They'll constantly wonder, okay, what is this guy going to be doing next? What's this fantastic artist going to be doing next? What's the next album going to be coming out? So I prefer being in that niche part of it, where I have a loyal set of fans who come to my concerts every time I have a concert, who are constantly in touch with me, and you know, and we grow together, you know. Absolutely,
and you know, the kind of barriers that you've broken with your music, I mean, you should be really proud. But I want to ask you something, because you also walk the talk on what you say. You spoke about how you're so passionate about environmental causes, and I'm sure you're seeing the kind of impact that your music is making. I heard this about you, that you don't use, you know, cars so much, correct me if I'm wrong, and you make an audit of your carbon print and, you know, try to reduce it. Tell us a little more about that, because it's really interesting, because there are many who face that criticism. You give a message, but you're not really following it. But you are somebody who's actually practicing what you preach.
No, my life is all about the environment. There are 4 things that I do, and very quickly. One thing is that I do not subscribe to fast fashion. I buy good quality clothes and I wear them repeatedly. This jacket, if you go onto my Instagram, you'll see it on at least 7 or 8 different events. Okay. And same thing with the shirt that I'm wearing. In fact, I bought a sherwani for my Grammy Awards ceremony, for which I won my 3rd Grammy Award in February. I've worn that for 26 concerts now. Okay. So basically that, fast fashion is very polluting. All of us know that. Second thing that I do is that I do not own a car. I used to own 3 cars till 2013, sold my cars. Now I use only public transportation. And when needed, if I have to visit many places, then I book a cab or something like that, but I don't own a car. The third thing is that I eat a meat-free diet. That has got a huge amount of cultural significance and traditional significance. So this is not something that should be forced on anybody. Everybody should figure out things for themselves. And the last thing is that, as you mentioned, I get my carbon footprint audited every quarter, just like how people get their finances audited. And then at the end of every quarter, the firm that audits my carbon footprint, we have a meeting with them as to how to reduce our carbon footprint for the next quarter. And I mitigate the effects of my carbon footprint by tree plantations and by investment in renewable energy companies.
That's really fantastic. And that's, I mean, we've not heard many who are doing this, so which is why it's so great that not just through your music, but you're actually practicing it in life as well. I want to ask you, are you happy with what India is doing? Do you see a change that India is doing as well in terms of the environment causes, or you know, ensuring on green energy as well? Are you happy with the progress that India is seeing over the last few years?
I think India is taking huge strides when it comes to the environment, because it's within our culture, it's within our traditions. We've always spoke about coexistence. In fact, our G20 presidency, the main theme is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which does not only mean living in peace and harmony between all of us human beings, but it also means living in absolute peace and absolute harmony with every single entity on this planet, whether living or non-living. So Prime Minister Modi has this, the Solar Alliance, which is, I think, a beautiful, beautiful pathway towards renewable energy. It's an alliance of nations from all over the world which have a tropical climate, which, you know, which can produce solar energy to mitigate the effects of climate change. And of course, most importantly, the Prime Minister has got this new mission known as Life Mission. And that is something that has really captured my imagination, because it's all about leading a lifestyle for the environment, taking the power within the hands of an individual, and doing away with this whole use and throw economy that all of us are so used to, which the West has brought to us, and instead buying everything that we buy only if we absolutely need it, and buying everything with a lot of deliberation, with a lot of mindfulness, and reusing everything that we purchase, and reducing our garbage, reducing what we put into landfills. So I think these are really, really good strides for us to become a more environmentally conscious society, because with 1.4 billion people in India, I believe that if we become a more environmentally conscious society, we're not just helping out India, but we're saving the world.
Absolutely. So this Independence Day, what is a message that you would like to give our audience?
So I would say that, be Indian in whatever we do. I think that is extremely important, simply because India is all about coexistence. India is all about, it's all about coexistence with all species, maintaining the delicate balance of nature. So as I said earlier, that, we have to follow the rules of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And, and if we just go back to our roots as being Indian, then there will be no problems like climate change, and there'll be no problems like, air pollution or plastics pollution or anything like that. Like, just be more Indian.
Yeah, and now there is that very conscious change as well, where we're looking within and not really aping the West blindly, which was happening for a while. Now there's that conscious change that people are seeing as well. Okay, so very quickly, before we wrap this up, I also want to ask you if you can let us in on the secret of, what's next, any collaborations, any secrets that you can spill here.
Now, of course, I'm releasing a new album with Stuart Copeland, the gentleman who I won my previous 2 Grammy Awards with. Absolute legend, 7-time Grammy Award winner, 75 million albums of his, 75 million copies of his album sold. He's done 50 Hollywood movie soundtracks. Always an honor to work with him. It's an album called Police Beyond Borders. And it's an album that we are releasing a little later this month. It's got languages, choirs, ensembles, orchestras from all over the world. It's the biggest project that I've ever worked on, and I'm very excited about it.
Okay, thank you so much, and all the best for that. And we're really, really looking forward to celebrating Independence Day with your latest music. And this is something that I'm sure will yet again bring out that patriotic fervor in us. Thank you so much for joining us. A very, very happy Independence Day for you, and thank you for joining us on this special show.